So mobile filmmaking is becoming something that is a go-to. It's becoming a lot easier to get things done and to shoot what you want to shoot when you don't have to worry about lugging around a lot of equipment. And if you're gonna go that route, I have a couple of suggestions. And one of those suggestions, one major suggestion, is buying some incredible glass, some incredible lenses for your cell phone. And since we're gonna go that route, you know I have to recommend something. And that recommendation is Moment. Moment cases, Moment lenses, which are incredible. Now, just to kind of bring you up to speed on what I'm talking about when I say mobile filmmaking, I'm talking about shooting videos, any kind of videography, any kind of filmmaking thing on your phone. Even when it comes to mobile photography, we're getting to the point now where these cell phones are able to capture really amazing footage, really crisp footage. We're able to shoot RAW. If you download certain apps, you're able to shoot RAW, and if you have certain cell phones, you're able to shoot RAW, which allows you to edit those photos without muddying up the quality, without losing quality when you export from one device to another. And we're also able to shoot log, flat picture profiles at 4K footage if you download certain apps. Two of the apps that I love to use is Filmic Pro and the Moment app, which I think is incredible, especially if you have the Moment lenses. It's super intuitive and it's very easy to use. I mean, they have everything on these apps from zebra stripes, focus peaking. It has all of these different things. So the app itself is really incredible, really easy to use. You get the lenses, you definitely want to download the app because it allows you access to all of the different lenses. And you know, any one of the lenses you have, you can select them from the list and the app will automatically adjust itself to that lens. It's especially helpful for if you're using the anamorphic lens because it de-squeezes the image in the actual app itself, so you don't have to do it in post-production. So take for instance, they also have their Moment anamorphic lens, and we'll get more into the anamorphic lens later, but just to explain a little bit more what I mean by the app setting itself to whichever lens you're using. If you're using the anamorphic lens, anyone who knows anything about anamorphic lenses, you know that they shoot the image squeezed. So the image is kind of compressed, the ratio of the image, and you have to de-squeeze. You usually have to de-squeeze the image in post-production to get it, the picture profile, to look like a regular picture profile, like what you guys are watching right now, instead of just being a squeezed image. And when you de-squeeze the image post-production, it gives you that cinematic wide angle look, what you see in film. So like whenever you go to the movies and you see the two black bars and they're like cinema lines, and then you have the picture inside that, there's a black bar on the top, black bar on the bottom, and it kind of has that wide view. The Moment app de-squeezes the image for you just by setting it to the lens that you're doing. So you're shooting with the image already de-squeezed, and when you bounce it out in post-production, it's already de-squeezed. You don't have to do it in post-production. The app allows you access to the frame rate at the top here. You have frame rate, you have the resolution, which is at 1080p, but I can turn it to 4K. And what's also really incredible is it allows you to shoot log right there. You can also shoot it in a default image, flat picture profile. I keep it on log just to have the flattest picture profile possible, so that when I take it to post-production, I can do color grading and not have to worry about muddying up the image too bad. Down here at the bottom, you have full manual control over your shutter speed, your ISO, your autofocus capabilities. You also have the focus ring right here, so you can just scroll through that. You can go through the settings and you can go to what do you have? You have focus peaking. You can go to histogram. You can turn on highlight clipping. You can turn on shadow clipping. All of these different functions make the filmmaking experience that much easier, just because it shows you on screen where it is you need to make your adjustments. So I have focus peaking on right now, and say for instance I want to focus on my hand. As you can see, it's turning green on the screen. Different things are turning green. Like my hand is turning green. The leaves behind me are turning green. That's letting me know what's in focus and what's not in focus. And that's extremely, 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 extremely great. And you can also go into settings and you can hit that link right there, and it'll take you right to the website so you can check out more Moment gear and more Moment product. They have some fanny packs on the website, all of these different things that are incredible. I promise you, once you start surfing this website, you're going to be picking up all kinds of interesting things. And they also have vacations, so they will actually take you to some of these amazing locations where they film their videos and they take their incredible photos. So they have trips to Iceland, all of these different photo trips. They have them set up so that you can get involved and become a part of it. And I really like that because I feel like they're building a community that everyone can be a part of, but we can also share information and share experiences with each other. And I think that's really dope. So they have 5 lenses that are out right now. They have the 58mm, they have an 18mm ultra wide angle lens, they have an anamorphic lens, a fisheye, a super fisheye lens, and they have a macro lens. And I'm gonna get into the features of each of these lenses and how they can be helpful to you when using them properly. And I don't say properly to be like an ass, like you don't know what you're doing. I really mean properly because, take for instance the macro lens. There's a few things that I think you should know when using some of these lenses that might actually affect your workflow and what it is you're doing. If you're a filmmaker or you're a photographer, I would say the 2 lenses you should absolutely get your hands on. If you're a photographer, I would do the 58mm telephoto lens for sure, so that you can capture some shots and get some really cool bokeh effects in the background, get that really shallow depth of field, you know, get really close, you can get really close to your image and blur out the background naturally, and it's just buttery smooth, amazing photos, amazing bokeh. That 58mm is a beast on the Canon, and it's also a beast on this Moment lens. I would also, if I was a photographer, I would also invest in their 18mm wide lens, as well as I would go for the super fisheye lens just for some really creative views. Like architecture looks really cool with using the fisheye lens. If you going into the woods or you go to any state parks or something and you want to capture some nature shots, just tilting that camera up and using a super fisheye lens, you can get some really creative, interesting angles, some really dope shots. So I would definitely go that route if you was a photographer. If you're someone who's doing mobile filmmaking, I would go 58mm and definitely get the anamorphic lens. The anamorphic lens is a beast. It's amazing. I just finished shooting a few videos using the anamorphic lens. I'll show you guys some footage I shot just for this review using the anamorphic lens, but it just looks so cinematic. It's incredible. So that coupled with the 58mm lens, just those 2 lenses alone, you have all you need to get the job done. The anamorphic lens kind of already is a very wide angle lens, so you don't necessarily need the 18mm, but if you don't want to go the anamorphic route and you just want to solely use the 18mm ultra wide lens, that's a great bet. That's a great thing to do. The macro lens for photography is incredible, but we're gonna get into some of the cons of the macro lens. It does its job really well. It might do it a little too well, but it's still a really good lens. I just don't think it's necessarily the first lens you need to invest in if you're going to pick up any one of these 5 lenses. To get into it though, before we talk a little bit about the lenses, let's just get right into some of these shots that I shot using the lenses. You can check some of these shots out and you can see for yourself just how great the quality and how good everything looks. So enjoy it.
Hold her you and sunny is blue. 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 Hold her you and sunny is blue.
One of the things with the macro lens that I noticed right off the back is the depth of field is super shallow, which was to be expected. You know, buying the macro lens, I already knew that I was going to get a very shallow depth of field because you're zooming in very, very close to something, and everything else around it is probably going to be blurred out the hell. But it's so shallow that you almost need to be going very close to something that's already incredibly small. And even then, it's still very shallow. Say, for instance, you had this plant here, and you were going to shoot some of the stems on the plant. Just holding the phone to the plant or to the front of the stem of the plant, it's not going to work how you would like. You might think that, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to focus on this one stem and everything else is going to be blurred out. No, you can't adjust the depth of field. Don't forget, it's a phone. So you can't go, oh, I'm going to make it a 2.8 instead of a 1.5 or whatever, and I'm going to get more things in focus. No, that shallow depth of field, it's still very, 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 very narrow. Very, very, very narrow. And you're going to have to get very, very close to what it is you're trying to focus on. So one of the things I've noticed that the macro lens works really well on is very specific subjects. If you're trying to use the macro lens to get really close to a drop of water, or you're trying to use the macro lens to film a bug, or you're trying to use the macro lens to film the petal, the petal on a rose, or something like that, it looks incredible. If you're trying to use the macro lens on a human's face and get a specific spot of the face, if you get close enough, you'll be able to get that spot, but it won't look like anything because the depth of field will be so narrow and everything around it will be so blurred out. It'll just look like, if you was to use it on my face, it would just look like a brown piece of paper. I would use that lens really creatively, really artistically, and really try to think about how I'm gonna approach shooting a subject with that lens. If I was gonna use that lens in video, I would try to use it for very specific shots, like maybe an extreme close-up of a person's eyeball or their pupil. Maybe the diamond in a person's earring or their ring or something like that. But it's very narrow depth of field. You have to get very close, and just keep that in mind. You cannot adjust the depth of field with the macro lens, with that macro lens. So that's just how that goes. The super fisheye lens is really dope, really incredible. It acts as an ultra wide angle lens to the max. You know, depending on how you angle the camera, you won't get any bending in walls or bending in buildings. If you angle the camera downward looking up, or you do it a certain way, you might not get any bending in the buildings. But for the most part, you're gonna get that super fisheye, so you're gonna get bend. You're gonna get things bending here. You're gonna get trees bending. Everything is kind of bending into the lens itself, and that's just the effect of that lens. So if you don't want any of that stuff, you don't want to use the super fisheye lens, you might want to go over to the 18mm lens and use that one. You might still get some bending on the buildings and some bending on the trees, but you have more control over how much of that is actually happening. If you're using a super fisheye lens, you're not going to have any control over that. That's part of the effect. That's part of the draw of what everyone loves about a super fisheye lens. The 58mm lens is incredible. The shallow depth of field is awesome. Being able to get close to a subject and just get incredible detail in that subject, get an incredible portrait look with the subject, but everything else around it being blurred out, is just an amazing thing to be able to capture on your cell phone without any digital grain or worrying about, zooming in digitally and ruining your shot. It looks incredible. The anamorphic lens, I can't stress enough how much of a dream it is to work with this lens as a filmmaker. I mean, especially on landscapes, downtown Manhattan, angling the camera up at the buildings, and it's just beautiful. If you hit different lighting a certain way, getting those incredible cinematic lens flares, it's just a really dope thing to be able to work with. And all of these lenses do their job incredibly well. So some of the other incredible things that Moment does really well is they give you different items to get to pair with your lenses. So like I said, you have to mount the lens onto a phone case. This is the one I have, but they have a lot of different cases. They have different colors, different styles. They have a battery pack case, which is great for mobile filmmaking because you know, your phone might run out of battery while you're out and about filming, and you have the battery case. Whether you're buying a Moment bag or you're using their dust pen, they have a pen that cleans the dust off your lenses. They have other companies selling their products on their website, selling ND filters, selling microphones. They've just really built a hub to where you can go to their website and get everything you need for mobile filmmaking, mobile photography, and it really just keeps you wanting to go back. Like anything you need, you can get it. The mic that I'm using to record this video on, I'm using it on my DSLR at the moment, but I got it off the Moment website. And I also use this same microphone on my cell phone when I'm doing mobile photography. When I'm doing mobile videography, I use the same mic. They make their ecosystem, their Moment ecosystem, really cool, and it makes you really want to be a part of every product that comes out because you know that they've put thought into their products, and you know that you can somehow use that product to make your filmmaking experience that much easier and that much better. And this is not me overhyping it. I mean this. Like I said, everything down to just the little bag that you can just keep with you in your pocket. This thing has a little strap right here that you can put a little keychain around, and you can just keep it on your hip. You can keep it in your bag. It's small enough to fit in your pocket. You can fit 2 lenses in there. You can fit a cleaning cloth in there, and that's all. You could just go to work. Go to work throughout your day. Go to your 9 to 5 with this in your pocket and never have to worry about having what you need to capture that shot that might just present itself at any given moment. I'm definitely a fan of everything they're doing right now, and I think they're really changing the game with their approach, because they're not the first ones to make lenses for mobile videography or mobile filmmaking, but their approach to it and their style and just everything they're doing is really great, and I think it's going to continue to push this genre of filmmaking forward. And I'm really excited to see other companies come up out of this and kind of put their foot in the ring and see what other companies come up with. But right now, Moment is killing it in the game with their lenses. I'm a fan, and I'm definitely a loyal customer, and I'm going to keep going back. I suggest you guys to do the same. So take a second, look down in the description. I'll have all the links to all the products that I own. Like I said, I own all 5 lenses. I own an ND filter that I got from them. I might do a review about the ND filter and the importance of using ND filters, especially in mobile videography. Very important to have an ND filter for your setup. But I'll get into that on another review. But yeah, just take a second, check that out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and check you guys later. Peace.